Hi, my name is Temi and I'm a Houston-based attorney and host of Ask Temi Live, where we discuss the best ways to establish your business, protect your name, and keep your profits. Today's question of the day are, what are the steps, from a legal perspective, of starting and running an e-commerce business? All right, let's jump in. This is a big one. So a lot of people come to me and they're telling me, okay, I am ready to start my e-commerce business. What do I do? And so I'm going to kind of tell you about it, but I just want to let you know up front. A lot of the steps that you have to take as an e-commerce business are similar to the steps that you have to take as a regular business. All right, so let's talk about it. The first thing that I want you to do if you're trying to be a serious business owner is I want you to have a plan. Come up with a business plan. Even if it's a plan that's not necessarily as elaborate with an executive summary and all these other things, I want you to understand what business are you doing, right? And how are you going to get a profit from it? So who are the people you're going to reach? How are you going to reach them? And how are you going to convince them to buy whatever it is that you want to sell? All right, and come to it with an analytical perspective. And that's really why you'll see, more comprehensive business plans. They really do help you flesh out your ideas and your thoughts and your processes. I'm somebody who sometimes that can be a little overwhelming, right? For some people, I recognize that. So I still want you to have a plan. Okay, let's make sure that that's step number one. That might also require you to do some research, right? Research the industry that you're about to be involved in, because industry to industry, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to sell, there are some nuanced differences. There are some things, let's say you're a manufacturing company or you want to work with a manufacturer. There are some companies that have unique licensing requirements if you're getting something from another country and things like that. So you really want to be aware based off of the research that you do. The next step, right? The next step after we've come up with our business plan is to choose a name. And you'll see lots of resources on this YouTube channel and also on my website about choosing the best name. You really want to make sure that the name that you choose is completely available, not just in the state where you're forming, but in general, particularly if you're going to be an e-commerce business, because you don't want to fall into the trap where you're creating a business, building a brand, but you're actually accidentally infringing on someone else's right. And that happens way more often than you would expect. You also don't want to come into a place where you've created this business name and you haven't put the proper protections in place and someone else is copying you. So you really want to choose a name, but it's really like you want to choose and then confirm that that name is available, okay, by doing a comprehensive search. All right, so those are two steps. Third step is you want to choose the right legal entity. You still, again, and some of these things might sound familiar because you're like, wait, it sounds like just a regular business. Yes, e-commerce gives you the illusion that this stuff is not important, but it's still just as important if you're creating a real business, because this is business. So you want to choose the right legal entity. You don't know if it's going to be an LLC or a corporation. You might want to do a sole proprietorship, but I would probably advise against it, because once you're online, you're actually exposing yourself to a lot more risk than if you were just doing something from your backyard. Right? Like, that's still not the best in terms of your backyard to not have any type of legal protection or have an entity formed. But again, online, your exposure to risk has increased because there are more people who are likely to come in contact with you. And that means there are more opportunities for a mistake to happen or for a misunderstanding to happen or for things to go wrong. So you want to choose a legal structure and make sure that you register the business. Okay, when you're choosing this legal structure, please keep in mind this will influence how you're taxed, because LLC, corporation, S corporation, all of those different things are taxed in unique ways. So you want to keep that in mind. Okay, so once you've chosen the entity, of course, this is probably part of the same step. You want to make sure that you register the business with the Secretary of State. So that's essentially the same as step number 3. You're putting them all together. You're choosing this right business, and then you're registering the business. Okay, the fourth step is you want to make sure you get something called an employee identification number or tax ID number. You'll also hear it called an EIN, because that's employee identification number, EIN, get it? And this number is actually really important, even if you're not going to hire any employees. This number is usually required when you're trying to open a bank account. So if you're setting up something online and people are going to pay you, how are they going to pay you? I strongly advise that it's not by putting money directly into your personal account, because that opens you up to legal liability that you do not want. Get a separate business account. Just do it. It's important. And it helps you stay organized. It helps you treat your business like a business and not like a hobby. And in order to do that, you'll definitely need your tax ID number. Okay, so go ahead and make sure you get an EIN. That's one of the next steps. That's our fourth step when it comes to starting your e-commerce business. And we've kind of talked about it, but once you have this tax ID number, your next step is to open up those bank accounts, right? You probably want to start off with at least a checking account, but perhaps also a credit account. That might help you in terms of facilitating other transactions where you might not want to expose your direct business account. It might be helpful to have a credit card that you can use instead. Okay, so you want to make sure that you get your business account at the very minimum, if possible, also a credit account. Next, you want to make sure you get all the right licenses and permits required for your industry. Okay, and it's going to vary. There are some states that require you to get specific licenses for the things that you are selling. Not every state requires it, but some states do, even for your e-commerce businesses. I know for people who are selling things physically, you're kind of used to it. But again, it might be required for your e-commerce business as well. You'll just need to see what your state requires. Okay. Next, I want you to make sure that your website platform is selected. So now we're going to talk about something a little bit more e-commerce related. Make sure that you have a solid online platform that you're using. You know, you have Shopify that most people, a lot of people like to use. Squarespace also has opportunities to have business type and commerce type arrangements, right? So there are lots of different providers, and of course you could do some of the standard ones, but you really want to make sure that these things are organized to kind of help facilitate your e-commerce business, to make it easier for you to track your sales, easier for you to kind of understand your customer activities, and to really understand what your consumers are doing, what your customers are doing. So I would suggest that you lean towards some of those platforms that are built for people who are doing e-commerce business, just because they've already thought through these things. The other reason why I want you to select your platform, right, is because you're also going to have certain things that you'll have to set up with regards to taxation. So this is another step. Make sure you're set up for taxes. Okay. And this is kind of a uncomfortable one because it really differs from state to state, but these different online platforms like the Shopifys and the Squarespaces and all of the other ones, they have those things in mind. So you really want to make sure that you're looking through how they advise you to set this up. Some of them go as far as to also help you prepare for your international sales, because there are laws associated with international sales that you need to be familiar with. So again, you want to set up your taxes the right way. The next thing that you want to do in terms of your e-commerce business is you want to make sure that your website has a tight privacy policy, terms and conditions, and return policy if applicable. Okay, 3 documents: privacy policy, terms and conditions, and return policy if applicable. Your privacy policy is mandated by federal law. If you are receiving information from a consumer, so if you're getting their billing information, their name, their email address, you are required to have a privacy policy. So get one. Your terms and conditions are important because those actually really establish an agreement between you and the people who visit your website as to what's allowed and what's not allowed. If there's ever to be an issue, the first thing that people are going to look at is what is on your terms and conditions. Did you speak about whether someone can download or what the rights are if somebody posts a comment in terms of who owns that, right? You talk about that stuff, what people are allowed to upload, not upload, how they're allowed to interact with your business in your terms and conditions. So don't overlook this. This is so critical, so important. And then finally, I said your return policy, if applicable, or your exchange policy. There is actual research out there that says the existence of a return policy on a website increases the chances that someone is going to engage with your business. So what that basically means is that people are provided with so many opportunities to make decisions about where they're going to spend their money. And it's risky. And a lot of people are hesitant to engage in that risk unless they have something that brings them comfort. And what brings them comfort often? It's the return policy. Now, I know a lot of people are scared to put out return policies because they don't want to be taken advantage of. Well, the chances or the likelihood of being taken advantage of versus basically creating a blockade from somebody actually engaging in your services are low. What I mean is that you're more likely to reduce the amount of sales that you have by not having a return policy rather than saving from people taking advantage of you by not having one or having one. I already mixed up my words, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. You want to make sure that you put something out there that tells people, hey, this is how you engage with me. This is how you interact. And we want to take care of you. Now, let me tell you what I think. And this is not, I don't remember seeing any research about this. But I also believe that people are more likely, if they buy something from you, it can be hard for people to return things unless they're absolutely hating it. And that's the type of population that you're serving. But generally speaking, if someone buy something and they're not crazy about it, but they're like, it's okay, they might not want to go through the hassle of returning it. So that's another reason why I'm like, get the return policy, help yourself out. So that one is really the last major step that I think is important for running and getting your e-commerce business set up. Now, of course, there are going to be lots of other elements that are important depending on your industry. What you sell will dictate what you do in terms of your e-commerce business. It will dictate how you set up your page and who you reach out to and how you allow people to engage with you and things like that. But the steps that we've gone through already, coming up with your plan, choosing the name, choosing the right entity and registering it, getting the tax ID number, opening up the accounts, getting the licenses and permits, and making sure you have a privacy policy, terms and conditions, and return policy on your website. Those things are critical across the board, right? You want to make sure that you have those things in place. Whew, that was a lot. But I'm hoping that it was really helpful to you and provided some clarity. Now, if you're still looking for a little bit more information and you need some more step-by-step guidance, I want to direct you to the link in the description box below for the Start Right Action Checklist. This checklist was developed with you in mind because I know there are a ton of people who want to start their businesses the right way and they don't know how. So this is the checklist that I use when I'm working with my clients, when I'm trying to decide, okay, what exactly do we need to put in place in order to protect your business? So go ahead and download that checklist. It's free. It's a couple of pages, really good information. And there might be some prizes attached to it. I'm not saying that there are. I'm not saying that there aren't. I'm saying you should go ahead and check it out. I think you'll find it helpful. All right, so that's all I have for today. If this was helpful, please leave a comment below. Feel free to leave your questions. Sometimes if I see a question that's really good, it becomes the inspiration for another video, and you might see your question asked or answered on one of these videos. So please feel free to leave your comments and questions below. We love to help. Additionally, if you want to find out more about the firm, you can visit the website, toslegal.com. You can also follow me at toslegal on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and any other social media platform that decides to pop up that I join. Okay? All right. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.